A massive Arctic blast is coming to the United States over the next few days, and this is going to shatter records across the United States when it comes to temperatures, in addition to some of the snowfall that we're going to be seeing today along the East Coast. In addition to that, the weather is going to change a ton as we go into next week, where we're going to go from record-breaking cold weather to the potential for even some record-breaking warm weather. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And we right now have a large winter storm that is moving across the Tennessee Valley and also now approaching the East Coast, where we are expecting some significant snowfall today back over in parts of North Carolina and Virginia. On the other hand, there's actually been an explosion of showers and thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast, some severe weather even just offshore, including some damaging winds and some fish-nados. Now, all of this is actually going to be moving more to the south, so that means we're not really dealing with much severe weather today in the United States, but definitely something that is interesting, because even if this system was a bit further to the north, we'd probably have some sort of significant severe weather event taking place today in the Dixie Alley. So the good news is that that's all offshore. And then back over in the Great Plains, we are clearing out for the most part. We had a ton of snow and as well as ice accumulation across the central and southern plains. Leave a comment down below exactly how much snow you saw. I'm definitely interested to hear some of your snowfall totals. Overall, it appears as if this winter storm did underperform just a little bit here across the central plains, but again, some of the official numbers are still yet to come. We'll talk more about that in our next video, exactly how much snow actually came out of this cross-country winter storm. And before we go further into today's video, I do want to remind you, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We are now less than 15,000 subscribers away from 1 million. We do daily weather updates here and also live streams for big weather events, so definitely recommend that you subscribe if you are new to the channel. Now let's talk more about this big Arctic blast that is coming to the United States. And for many of you, you are waking up to some of the coldest weather that you've seen at least this year, if not in several years. We have a huge plume of Arctic air that is sitting across the Great Plains, in addition to some record-breaking cold back up into the northern plains and across Montana. Some areas are as low as 50 to 60 degrees below average. That is insane for this time of the year even, and this is again pretty historic. We are talking about tons of records that are going to be being shattered here over the next 72 hours. As we go later into today, notice how we are talking about many high temperatures across the central and southern plains, as much as 30 to 45 degrees below average. That is just, again, really crazy stuff. But Thursday is really going to be the day where we shatter a ton of daily cold records across many areas in the Great Plains and even back through the Gulf Coast, where many areas will be as much as 30 to 45 degrees below average Thursday morning. Notice how this cold air is just going to continue to siphon down to the south. We're going to have many areas, even in the central plains, as much as 60 degrees below average. That is, again, just unbelievable stuff that we're talking about on Thursday. And eventually, as we go into Friday, this continues to move a little bit further to the east. We'll be reaching areas like Tennessee, Kentucky, and back into the Midwest. The Gulf Coast will be as much as 30 degrees below average, which could set several areas into record-breaking cold temperatures as we go into Friday morning. Eventually, as we go into Saturday, this cold air continues for many areas anywhere east of the Rockies all the way through the Ohio Valley. By the time we go into Sunday morning, that cold air will still be sitting over in the Ohio Valley, but I think things are going to improve as we go into the early to mid portion of next week, where above average temperatures are going to return, and many people will be smiling again because we're actually going to have some sunshine in addition to nice weather. So definitely some good news there as we go into next week. No big winter storms currently in the near future, it looks like, at least for the next 7 days after the one that we're dealing with today. So here's some of the actual temperatures that many of you woke up to this morning. Notice how we have areas as low as 30 degrees below zero back over in the northern plains, even near freezing down towards the Gulf Coast. But as we go into tomorrow morning, it is going to get a whole lot colder. We are talking about some of the coldest weather that we've experienced in years, and in some cases decades across the country. This is what it looks like tomorrow morning. Many areas 20 to 30 degrees below zero in the central and northern plains and back into the Midwest. Freezing temperatures will be reaching the Gulf Coast. In addition to that, we'll have many areas across Oklahoma and Texas as low as the single digits, and even a few areas in northern Oklahoma sub-zero. This is definitely comparable to 2021. It's just not going to last nearly as long here across the country. Friday morning's not much different, but we will have a little bit of an improvement, I think, across the central plains and back into the Midwest. And then eventually, as we go into Saturday and into Sunday, notice how the temperatures start to increase again. We're back on a nice little trend, and this is what it could look like by Tuesday afternoon across the country as we go into next week. Back to 70s and 80s along the Gulf Coast, even 50s back up as far north as the Midwest and as well as the central plains. And it will feel even colder outside when it comes to the wind chills as we go into tomorrow morning. Many areas in the central and northern plains, 35 to 45 degrees below zero. Make sure you bundle up. It is going to be downright dangerous cold here across many areas in the central and northern plains. We have extreme cold warnings in effect for almost anywhere in the Great Plains right now because of this weather. Also back into Texas and even down as far south as Mississippi, some areas could be feeling like sub-zero temperatures tomorrow morning. As we go into Friday morning, things start to improve a little bit, but still very dangerous cold across the Midwest and the northern plains. Now, obviously, many areas in the northern plains and Midwest are used to this type of weather in months like January and February, but you do want to make sure that you are bundled up when you go outside. Don't have any exposed skin because, again, hypothermia is definitely a concern out here in these areas. And then eventually, as we go into Saturday morning, again, things start to improve. We could even have some falling iguanas back over in Florida as we go into Friday morning due to how cold it'll be. So you may want to wear a helmet if you are in Florida on Friday. Now, we are going to break a ton of records as we go into tomorrow morning. This is what we're looking at for record-breaking low temperatures tomorrow morning, which is a total of 58 different places that are expected to either tie or break a record. This includes areas like the Gulf Coast all the way back into the northern plains. And then in terms of our high temperatures, we are expecting many areas to have a low maximum temperature. And what that means is that we have a lowest maximum temperature on this given day. So definitely something that's going to be pretty crazy. Many areas going to stay below freezing across even areas in North Texas. And then by Friday morning, 43 different locations are expected to either tie or break records in the Central Plains all the way through the Gulf Coast. And then again, Friday afternoon, many areas, even including parts of Florida, will set their lowest maximum temperatures on a daily record basis. So definitely a lot of crazy stuff here over the next few days. Make sure you're bundled up. It will be very cold for many areas in the United States. Now, we do have a winter storm to talk about, which is currently impacting areas near the Appalachian Mountains and also the Tennessee Valley this morning. Many areas still seeing snow out there back over near Nashville and also through central Kentucky, but that will be winding down over the next few hours. This will be approaching the East Coast as we get closer to lunchtime today, and we are expecting this to amplify, meaning that we are going to see some heavier snowfall fill into areas in far northern North Carolina and far eastern Virginia as we go into the early afternoon hours, in addition to some ice accumulation that'll be happening in eastern North Carolina. In addition, we actually have a lot of showers and thunderstorms just to the west there of Tampa. We could even see some severe weather offshore, so if you know any fish out there, might see some fish-nados as we go into the afternoon hours today. Eventually, as we go into the evening hours tonight, that snow continues back over in southern Maryland, far southern Delaware, eastern Virginia, and eastern North Carolina, where heavy snowfall could lead to as much as 6 to 10 inches of snow in some areas. And then eventually, as we go into the overnight hours, there will still be some light snow out there in parts of Virginia and North Carolina, but it'll be mostly moving offshore as we go into Thursday morning. And I do think we'll briefly have a little bit of snow on the backside of this as well that might additionally add another 1 to 2 inches of snow back over in parts of Virginia and North Carolina during the early time of Thursday, and then also a little bit of lake effect snow back over in northwestern Indiana and also back over near Lake Ontario before this entire system moves out. So in terms of total snowfall accumulation, the majority of it will again be focused towards areas in North Carolina, Virginia, and extreme southern Maryland. It's going to be a very small area, but that small area could pick up as much as 6 to 10 inches of snow, and I think even areas near Virginia Beach could get as high as 12 inches of snow, which if that does happen, we would have one of the highest amounts of snowfall that we've ever had in a single day for Virginia Beach. The previous record is about 14 inches of snow or so. It's definitely possible today. I wouldn't rule it out. Again, definitely something we're going to be keeping a close eye on, and that's another record that we could end up breaking today. Now, back further to the south, we are going to be dealing with some significant ice accumulation across North Carolina and even a little bit of South Carolina. Lots of school closures already in these areas due to the fact that we could see as much as a half of an inch of ice accumulation, which would not just lead to problems on the roadways, but also would lead to some isolated power outages. So definitely make sure you have batteries ready to go in your flashlights, have phones charged up just in case you do end up losing power over here in parts of North Carolina. Now, beyond all of this weather this week, we are anticipating the weather to quiet down quite a bit as we go into the weekend and also into early next week. This is eventually Monday into Tuesday. We'll likely have a couple more Alberta clippers back over in the Midwest and the Northeast, which is pretty similar to what February really started with. We had a lot of this early on, and then we eventually had those big winter storms. But for the time being, the weather looks pretty chill after this week. So definitely some good stuff to look forward to, some nicer weather. You'll probably see me a little bit less and less as we go into the weekend and early next week if this type of weather pattern continues. But we'll have another video tomorrow morning talking all about what is ahead as we go into this weekend and as well as next week in more detail. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest updates.